All right. Okay, ready?
Yeah. Just changing up these notes real fast. Just doing
Right.
like that and then deleting that there. Dan Quayle. Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
Can we start every show like that?
Dan Quayle.
That would be excellent.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe,
You mean our guest tonight is...
dedicated to truth, justice, and peace. It's the world's greatest superpowered show.
Hi, welcome to Minding the Multiverse. My name is Gabriel,
And I'm Jeremy.
and we are here to talk about comics, culture, and the entire classic 1994 CBS Saturday morning cartoon lineup, starting with, of course, your favorite and mine, WildC.A.T.S, created by the legendary Jim Lee. Now, Jeremy, what was your favorite season of the WildC.A.T.S Saturday morning cartoon show?
So, in keeping of my not really a fan who claims to be a fan of comics, I've never seen an episode of it. And if I have, I don't remember it at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was kind of a trick question because there was only one season of the WildC.A.T.S Covert Action Team's Saturday morning cartoon show, because I think a lot of people shared your sentiment. I don't think you were alone in that. I remember it vaguely. And I think it's because I was that was when I was starting to get into comics, and this was on TV, so I just had to watch it. But I do not have any strong memories of it.
Yeah. I remember X-Men really well. And I remember the comic book WildC.A.T.S better now since I just reread it. But yeah, I don't remember the cartoon.
Yeah. Well, the cartoon wasn't that deep. It was a little shallow, which I'm sure it doesn't share with its comic book counterpart.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right. Well, with all that said, we'll jump in to the main course here, and we'll find out why the WildC.A.T.S Covert Action Team's Saturday morning cartoon show possibly only had enough story material for one season.
Well, so yes, WildC.A.T.S is one of those things that in my memory, is very, very strong. I remember the art the most because it is Jim Lee, and it's very memorable art. He's an amazing artist.
Yes.
And this is back when he was first getting his start. Although, he started in Marvel first. We can go into a whole show about Jim Lee's career in and of itself.
Yes.
But talking about just WildC.A.T.S here, it came out in 1992. It was drawn by Jim Lee, inks by Scott Williams, colors by Joe Chiodo. I think that's how you say his last name.
Sure.
Letters were done by Mike Heisler instead of a computer like they are these days.
Oh, yeah. I did notice that. Yeah, because they fit well. Because sometimes you can tell with the digital stuff, like they drew the bubble and then just moved on.
Yeah.
And then someone had to type it in, and it kind of fits. But yeah, these fit perfectly.
Yeah, it's a hand done skill. There was letters. I'm sure there's still letters these days. I am no comic industry professional. I could be talking out my ass when I say it's computers these days. It might still be some guy or girl who's really good at handwriting who does this, but I don't know.
Could be, but yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think a lot of it is done digitally, and there's so many good fonts for it now.
Sure.
I mean, you can really emulate a handwriting style really well.
Oh, yeah.
And then totally control the kerning and all that stuff, and I can see how that would be a valuable tool.
Absolutely.
And how a letterer, maybe that's what the job entails now. It's not so much hand doing it as being really good at setting it digitally.
Sure. And fonts can be so expressive. So, as a letterer, you probably have these days a database full of maybe even stuff you hand create, but you're not doing it on the paper. At least I wouldn't think you are these days.
No. And one of my favorite documentaries is about a font. It's literally called Helvetica.
We, as old graphic designers, have an affinity for font work.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I lean towards font heavy design because I'm a bad artist, but I'm a decent designer. And so fonts give you that, I can make something look good without having to have any physical skill.
And that's okay. That's okay. You know, people, you don't have to have an artistic mind to be a good graphic designer. So yeah. There's rules to follow. So, but this was actually co-created and co-written by Jim Lee and Brendan Choi. So it's not Jim Lee's sole creation. He had help. And this is back in the days of when Image Comics was first founded. And there's a whole story on that too. Like we could do a whole episode on Jim Lee and the founding of Image Comics, all of the artists that joined him in making Image Comics. And the long story short, they were kind of rebels in the fact that they didn't want somebody else to own their work.
Right.
So each artist underneath the Image brand or publisher had their own studio. Jim Lee had Wildstorm, blah blah blah. Todd McFarlane and Todd McFarlane Productions, you know.
Yeah, of course he was going to name it after himself.
Of course. I mean, yeah.
Everyone else had like cute names for their studios.
Yes.
This is like McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane Productions. Yes.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
He's a good brander.
Yeah. And it's not like it didn't work out for the guy.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
So in this book, Wildcats being wild and like, you know, uncontrollable, right? Wild. And then cats, covert action teams. Yeah, that's where the S comes from. And
I noticed because there's not like the acronym kind of gets a little funky. Like, all right, I see you fit this all in here.
Yeah, there's no period after the S.
Right.
It's just after the CAT.
When I was doing the button design, I was like, wait, there isn't one because there's no. Oh, it's a plural. So it's actually a wildcat.
A covert action team. Yeah, but there's apparently multiple covert action teams out there, and you know these teams show up, and they
still Wildcats is still popping up every now because now it's part of DC and stuff. And
Wildstorm was sold by Jim Lee to DC a while back. So
so they still pop up. So I can see that how that interchangeable team style would help with that.
Yeah, and they've had a bajillion members. You know, like if you go to the Wikipedia, the Wildcats members roster is pretty large at this point. And I mean, before the pandemic hit, I was going to the comic book shop pretty regularly, getting some DC stuff like the new Superman and the new Batman stuff. And there was a brand new Wildcats team publication that had started up. I actually bought like the first 4 or 5 issues of it, and I don't think I've read it yet. I think I picked them up and I was like, yeah, I'll read these at some point, and then I just haven't. I should probably find those. But
yeah, you check it out. And is it still by Jim Lee?
No.
Or is it okay?
No, it's somebody else. He's too busy, I think.
Because he's running an empire now.
He's like what, the editor in chief or something now.
Yeah, I could maybe he'll do like a cover or something. You know. Yeah. That's more his speed now. He's doing kind of like one-offs now.
I think he sold Wildstorm, if I remember correctly, because he wasn't drawing as much as he wanted to. You know, being the boss actually was getting in the way of doing the work. So the fact that he's such a huge, you know, head honcho of DC now is kind of goes back on that, at least that younger version of himself. But I'm sure he still does plenty of work.
And so for those who may not be familiar, like since we're talking about Jim Lee, you know, he started as an artist, you know, at Marvel and DC. He was kind of doing work, you know, for everybody, and then went through this, you know, monumental shift in the environment of comics. I mean, it changed everything. Now he runs DC. Yeah, he's really gone through the entire spectrum of the industry as being a, you know, piecemeal artist in the old system to owning all of his own properties and making an empire there, and being one of the first rock star comic creators. Yes. that group, that Image group. I mean, they were real rock stars, and then to now, essentially like you were the rock star and now you're the man. Yeah, you know, like now he runs DC. Now it's his thing. So
and it's all those Image guys. They were all huge rock stars back in the early 90s. They were
crazy. Yeah, I mean, there was, you know, the helicopter news footage of you know, the release of Spawn #1. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, it really was.
That was when you and I were first getting into it when we were young, and it was a crazy time. It was like getting into rock music right when the Beatles arrived.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Where it was just everyone was going insane. So you were just swept up in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And that, probably made a big impact on us going forward.
It absolutely did. I mean, it was so different. It was the first time a company other than DC or Marvel was making comics that were popular.
Right.
And super popular, and they were way different. The art styles were way different, and
they were amazing.
It was amazing.
It was art focused community.
Yeah.
It was like all the great artists like, fuck off, we're out of here.
Yeah.
So every book that came out was just gorgeous.
Yeah, you look at it now, and
it's very stylized.
It's very stylized
of the era.
And
but nobody has any noses.
It's questionable. Like the anatomy is really bad.
Yeah. Rob Liefeld was making up muscles.
Dude.
Those muscles don't exist.
Dude. Again, another topic for another. We could talk about comic art as a whole, and we could do hours on Rob Liefeld. And if Rob Liefeld ever hears our podcast, hey, more props to you, my friend. But
we love you.
But come on. Come on. So, yeah, the art is really what is the standout in my mind. I didn't remember the story of WildC.A.T.S before I reread it here just the other day in preparation for this episode. And I after the first issue, it became very clear I wasn't working with a lot of depth. And part of the reason why I wanted to do WildC.A.T.S after doing The Crow was because I wanted something a little light. The Crow's super dense. Some of the subject matter we've already covered on our podcast, for as young as it is, has been very deep.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion. Some of the shit's been pretty heavy hitting.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take a break from that and do something light. And
Crow was the Marianas Trench, and this is a koi pond.
This is,
this is a very pretty, very manicured, very landscaped oasis.
Yes.
That is a foot deep.
Yeah,
but we are enjoying that foot.
Yeah,
incredibly.
Yeah, I guess at this point in our lives or in our comic reading history, this is kind of like a guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
the women, they have impossibly small waists and ridiculously sized hips and boobs, and it's just the clothes that they wear ridiculous. And I mean, it's the same for the guys. They have the same kind of totally unrealistic imagery. It's over the top silliness. It's really really silly stuff. But I mean, it's when WildC.A.T.S was when I first saw Jim Lee's artwork.
And something about that that stood out to me was how consistent it is. If you look at this stuff and stuff that he's doing now, is gorgeous and it's unbelievable, and he does the kind of one-off things usually for charity.
Lots of covers and stuff too.
Right. But like this art is dated by its design.
Absolutely.
But not by the art style. Like this looks like something, like if he was doing a throwback story, I could see this being totally current.
Right.
Like the art is really stood up.
Yeah.
Like I found that to be surprising. Like this didn't look, rougher or anything, or more stylized or anything. It was like you could immediately spot that this was Jim Lee art.
Yeah, Jim Lee and his pals that started Image, they modernized comic book art. They took their styles away from Marvel for the time, and created a modern comic book look. Before that, you have the classic Marvel style. And sure, it started to change because before WildC.A.T.S, he did the X-Men, and the X-Men, X-Men #1 Volume 2, I think is still the #1 selling comic, and it was that big 4-panel fold-out cover.
I had it. I know. I can see it in my head. It's Cyclops and Wolverine, and they're in that fight stance, and it folds
Magneto
out.
is on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
I actually, right here in front of me, I have a gold, not gold, but a foil little commemorative picture that it's like a foil version of the cover, and then my kids upstairs have a 7-foot-long poster of it on their wall that I got when I was 13.
Yeah, so it's still relevant. I mean, that art is still celebrated.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, Jim Lee's style is Jim Lee's style. When you see it, you know it.
And it's super. And I think. I mean, physical dimensions aside, it's on the realism end. It's not hyper stylized. It's not like a Frank Miller. It's not, it's everyone's the absolute perfect version of them, but it's a realistic style.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. It's not. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's hyper anatomy, but yeah, yeah.
But back to the point of why it's so shallow is that there's not a lot to talk about. It's pretty simple stuff, and that's not a knock to it. It is what it is. No. It's a team book. Back in the 90s, team books were huge. There was a ton of team books or teams being created out there. Amongst all the stuff that they did in Image, there was other teams out there too, but it has all of the stuff, what did I say earlier? It checks all the boxes. You know what I mean? But in a nutshell, you have two warring alien races that find themselves on Earth. Okay, you have the Cherubim. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Really, a lot of really funny made up names and stuff like that. Yeah, and all of the team members have stupid names, and every character has some weird. Obviously the name kind of fits their power in a way, I guess, but they're just silly. And I'll read off some names later on. But anyways, the Cherubim and the Demonites. And both of these races are nearly immortal. And so now they're on Earth, right? The Cherubim are the good guys. They are human looking, although they're like short. They're like little people size. Okay. So they're humanoid. They're human looking, but the pure cherubim, it's Kherubim.
Yeah, it's like so this is, it's a clever way, or it's kind of, it's very shallowly clever way of cherubim and demons.
And
right. Yeah, so it's angels and demons.
Angels and demons, right. Again, very cliche, right? They just switched it up to aliens rather than it being religious.
Right, I need some good guys and bad guys. All right, well, how about angels and demons? Done.
And they just changed the spelling. So I guess, cherubs are little fat floating babies, right?
Sure, yeah.
Well, that one of the main guys in WildC.A.T.S, his name is Jacob Marlowe, and he's a pure blood cherubim, and he's amnesiac, so he doesn't remember who he is. He's found, and that's pretty typical too. The big bad hero doesn't know who he is because of some reason, which we don't find out in the beginnings of this. This is only a 4-issue
it's
span.
Like soap opera drama.
Yeah,
it's like everybody's got amnesia.
So the cherubim are human looking in appearance, and they have superpowers and skills, and they're really smart, blah blah blah. These are these superpowered alien short people. Okay. And over the centuries, the cherubim have bred with humans and created half-breeds who also possess powers. And these people are born in these days, this is ancient stuff we're talking about, thousands of years, hundreds of years, whatever.
Are they called Nephilim?
No, they're not. They're called, well, they're only referred to as either, special ones or half-breeds.
Okay, I was wondering what their clever name would be for Nephilim. They're like Nephilim.
No, nothing fancy in reference to these folks that are born. I think they just call them like special ones.
Okay, got it.
And then on the other side, you have the Demonites, who are like, they're not humanoid looking at all. They're real big, nasty, boiled, covered, monster looking aliens. They have 4 arms. They're real ugly, right?
And I remember being floored when I saw the Saturday morning cartoon that they actually called them that. Like, that they call them Demonites.
Demonites, yeah.
Or I think they call them Demonites, or maybe they called them Damonites.
They may have said Damonites.
But I remember sitting in the floor of my living room, and I grew up in a very religious household, and then hearing that, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. Keep it down, guys.
Yeah, not your typical demons. They're aliens. That's what you say. They're not demons. They're aliens. It's not the same.
They're totally aliens. Yeah, that would have worked.
Except these aliens, the Demonites, they have to hide, right? Or else they'll be, they kind of stand out. So they possess human bodies like ghosts or demons from the Bible.
Yeah. We're staying on brand.
Exactly. They possess people, and they can control their minds, control their actions, blah, 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 right? Pretty typical cliche stuff so far. Mm-hmm. And it's these two races that are the main problem that we're dealing with here. You got the cherubim, who are the good guys, and you have the demonites, who are the bad guys. The demonites are trying to basically perform what's called the reunification, and that's where the rest of their species can come to Earth and once and for all destroy the cherubim and also, enslave the human race and take over the world.
All right, classic stuff.
Classic aliens coming to take over the world. There's something standing in their way, and they got to do something about it. There's a big, long, convoluted plan to make it happen. So that's really basically it. Like, you can imagine how it would resolve itself with a band of superheroes, and you're probably right. You know what I mean?
Just your first assumption would be correct.
And if it's not exactly correct, you're probably in the ballpark. It's the super team. They don't quite work together all that great at first. And gosh darn it, you got to get your shit together because the fate of the world is in our hands. And la-di-da,
sure.
We won the day. That's basically it.
All right.
To get a little bit more detailed, it centers around Jacob Marlowe, who is this. We are introduced to him laying in a pile of filth. He's a homeless guy, and he starts to get picked on by these two dudes who just want to beat somebody up or whatever. And you can see, he kind of flashes some power and in panic mode. He doesn't know what happened, and he gets saved by somebody called Void. It's a girl with her impossibly small waist and huge hips. She's covered in all silver, and she might as well be naked,
Yeah, because it's like the T-1000 in liquid mode, but also a stripper.
Right, exactly. She has a human face, no hair, all silver, T-1000 in it, totally. And she even can teleport through time and space too.
Handy.
Yeah, and so she finds him, and she's like
a sexy Janet from The Good Place.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
She finds him, and she lets him know, hey, you're actually not just a bum. You're actually somebody named Lord Emp, E-M-P, Lord Emp. And my brain, I don't know if this says anything about me, but my brain keeps saying Lord Imp because he's short.
Well, that's exactly exactly correct.
I keep seeing Lord Imp, Lord Imp.
These are all like fantasy words, one letter off.
Yeah, exactly.
The cherubim, the Damonites, and Lord Emp.
Yeah, It's silly. That's why when I was reading this, I was like, oh, geez, this is going to be really hard to talk about because there's really not much there. And it's not an insult that it's shallow. They were just getting off the ground. It was,
sure.
It was new, and it was more about the art and the exciting direction that the art takes. It's very colorful, and
you needed a lot of dynamic poses. You needed a lot of things to show off this art. That was the whole deal at the time. Kind of you just needed a vehicle to take these characters in, but it had to be for showcasing the design of these characters.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really what it felt like. It was more of just artists getting to do art the way they wanted to, and it's just the wrapper is flimsy and not memorable,
It's wrapped around a light version of They Live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, except and that brings up so they have to find somebody named they have to find the special one that can actually see.
You always do.
Yes, she can see the true being that's inside of these humans. She can see the demonites for who they really are, even though they're inside of a human. She can
tell the possessed people.
Yeah,
she can see that they're possessed,
and she has the ability to exorcise those demonites out of human bodies.
I saw that outfit she's wearing. I think she's going to jazzercise those demons out of their bodies.
I mean, she's hot, right? That's what they're going for. They find her. One of the many characters in this book is Grifter, one of the main characters of the Wildcats. He, not at this point though, he's not part of the team yet. He finds her at a strip club dancing,
sure.
And she has a strange power over men. They just can't help but look at her, and they keep their eyes on her and give her money. And she has, a strange, aura about her, some kind of weird power. And, shit happens, and it turns out she can see demons. There's really not much else to say.
It's an interesting life for a dancer.
Yeah, So there's good guys fighting against bad guys with ridiculous armor and aliens that say stupid shit, and it's one-liners, and
it is a lot of that. It's a lot of
one-liners.
Action one-liners. I noticed that it's a lot of like, get over there, get down, take them out.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
If you want to live, follow me and do exactly what I tell you. How many times have you heard that in everything? You know what I mean? And
Right.
These aliens have special tech, and they have special assassins. It's exactly what you would think. It ticks all the boxes. The story is meh. It starts in a frozen wasteland. There's mysterious alien tech, which Void, the all-silver chick, is tied to. She can travel through space and time. She knows what's going to happen if she doesn't find Lord Emp. And, she has to get the band of heroes together to stop the bad guys. And it has all of the stuff that you would think. So, sexy ladies. It has a Claw dude. It has a Brute dude. It has a Captain America dude. It has the female power like character. It has the rebel dude, and then the reluctant amnesiac leader. It has government spook dude, and they all have strange names. They all have these weird names. So you got Jacob Marlowe, who's like the head of Wildcats.
And that doesn't seem like that weird of a name. That seems like just a regular guy's name.
But his real name is Lord Emp.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Lord
Okay.
Emp.
Now we're back.
And then you have Void, Spartan, Maul, Warblade, and then the main antagonist in this book his name is Hellspont.
Okay, sure.
Hellspont. Hellspont. And then his henchmen.
It's like a dyslexic D&D campaign.
I know. It's just silly, and so Void, she can, she has energy powers, and then she can teleport, and she's tied to this orb, this mysterious thing, artifact technology that Hellspont is after, because it has the power to basically allow him to open the portal that would allow the aliens to invade. Where have you heard that before?
Everywhere.
And then you have all of the henchmen that have names for no reason. Like, there's no reason to have a million henchmen that all each have names.
And this is coming after we covered The Crow.
Yeah.
Which had a million henchmen with a million dumb names.
But it was different though, because each one of those characters had an emotional tie-in.
Right. They had a story.
They each had a story. These are just random one-offs. And there's this book is chock full of all of these different people. Coda assassins. One of the main Wildcats, her name is Zealot. She's like the main female of the group, and she's this badass Amazon type samurai, ninja, whatever. It's a secret sect of women assassins called the Coda. CODA, Coda assassins. And so she has to fight her quote unquote sisters throughout this book, because it seems like everybody has a Coda assassin on their payroll. So everybody's got a Coda assassin with them.
It's a secret society, but like everyone knows about it and everyone hires from it.
It's like, they're not so secret since everybody's got a Coda assassin on their next to them, so you're waiting to be awesome. And then so the rest of the team, you have Spartan, who's kind of like the team lead other than Lord Emp himself, right? And he turns out to be like a robot. He's like a sentient android, kind of like Data if he was on a team of superheroes.
If Data was in the Expendables.
Exactly, yeah. And he can't die, or he can die, but that's just an android body. So he's
got robot rules.
Yeah, he's got robot rules. Yeah, his brain can download into a brand new body, so he's fine. He gets shredded in this book, but no big deal. And then you have Grifter. He's the likable rebel. And he doesn't follow anybody's rules, but for some reason he's joined the team.
And he has like a red cloth over his face.
Yeah,
right?
He's got a red cloth. And he's still a character, and he's still out there. Like, I know Grifter is still pretty popular. He's made a lot of guest spots and all across comics these days, You have Voodoo.
She's the one who can see.
She's the one who can see, yeah.
All right, so she's our Roddy Piper of this story.
That's right.
Okay.
No glasses needed though. She's got it. Her eyeballs work no problem. She can see.
So in multiple ways, she is the superior Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yes. Boobs and no glasses.
A stripper and doesn't need glasses.
To see the big bad alien men. Yeah. And then we have Zealot. She's the super tough warrior woman who don't need nobody, right? And then Maul, and he's a weird Hulk character. He's purple. He wears a skin tight suit like them all because I guess drawing clothes is a pain in the ass.
Sure. And I like that he has an M on his forehead. Like you would mistake him for a different enormous purple Hulk.
Well, he can grow in size. So like the Hulk doesn't grow in size much, unlike what that movie with Eric Bana would want you to think. He does not grow in size. He grows in strength. Maul can grow in size. He can increase his mass, but when he does, the bigger he gets, the more of his like conscious thinking brain goes away. So like he gets dumber and more wild. So if he gets too big, he loses control.
Got it.
But it's a good thing now that on the team is a girl who has the ability to influence people's minds. So there's his off switch, right?
That's his Black Widow.
That's his Black Widow lullaby. Right, exactly. And then you have Warblade, which is this version's weird Wolverine. Instead of claws coming out of his hands, he's like liquid metal. His hands are like liquid metal. And all of these people have tubes everywhere. Tubes all over them.
Have to.
Yeah.
And every team needed a weird Wolverine.
And a weird Hulk. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. And they never had noses. I don't know why.
No noses, flat faced. Yeah. I mean, even Grifter, like with his red cloth on, there's no nose.
When I was a kid, when I would like to draw, and I would draw things from comic books and stuff, and my favorite was always Bedrock because he had like almost no features. Like you draw like a small cap head, a giant cap, jaw, and then some muscles, and you're done.
And you said Bedrock, right?
I think so. Bedrock or Badrock or
Badrock from Youngblood.
Badrock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from Youngblood. Yeah.
Yeah. So Youngblood shows up.
Of course.
Yeah. So like
How
in
can you tell the
latter
difference? When they're all standing together, does it just look like a cloning accident?
Yes. And Youngblood themselves, they all have the same shit. You have all the same character archetypes, right? And it's just like, why are they there? Why are they there? I know it's because they had to cross promote. They had to get
that was it. I mean, that was the real reason was that
everybody
appeared in everybody's book. This was all very community based thing. But I think near the end, someone from Cyberforce creeps in. I'm not sure. So there's a Top Cow production.
Oh man! Oh, Top Cow! Don't get me started. I love Top Cow books back in the day. But yeah, so in 4 issues, we are introduced to, I'm going to say them all again real fast.
Okay.
Jacob Marlowe, Void, Spartan, Maul, Warblade, Hellspawn, Pike, multiple Coda assassin women, Providence, Gnome, Grifter, Voodoo, Zealot, Dan Quayle, Mr. Lynch, an alien named McCoy, an alien named Belial, and then all of Youngblood, Shaft, Chapel, Diehard, Badrock, a guy named Combat. His name is Combat. And then Vogue, and then there's Slag, Attica, Harm. Like it's so much for 4 issues.
Wow. And I love the standout name in there is Dan Quayle.
Dan Quayle. Yeah, Dan Quayle.
When you break it down, could be a superhero name. Like it'd be like quail-based powers. Like, he would just like scurry into bushes really quickly.
I am very small and can hide. I run very fast on my little sticks and get into the brush so you cannot see me. But yeah, Dan Quayle is a part of the grand scheme by this Hellspawn fella, who, by the way, is like a weird. So he's an alien. Okay, Hellspawn is an alien that is being possessed by another alien, the Daemonite.
Okay.
And so when Voodoo late in the 4th issue, she tries to exorcise the demon out of Hellspawn, and he, foolish woman, your exorcising powers only work on humans that are possessed by Daemonites.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh god.
He's also made of like fire.
Yeah, he's got this weird.
he's got the same super hard body, lots of metal
Tubes.
tentacles and tubes for some reason, and then his head is just fire.
Blue flaming fire with
Yeah.
these weird fin head skull thing, and then like
Yeah.
Tony the Tiger stripe blue arms. He's got tiger stripes on his upper arms, but they're blue.
And like
You know,
Silver Samurai's helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love Silver Samurai. So many colors, like the books, the art. We keep going back to it because I think that's really why it's so memorable. It's just, Void, the covers of these books, she reflects all the purples and the reds and the pinks, lots of hot pink in this book. And
Yeah,
It's
that
just-
was one thing I noticed as I was going through. It's very colorful, and
Very,
for me,
very
I like a lot of color. And last week we talked about Black Science, and
Yes.
that's a art centric book, but with a good story. Like it's a story that keeps you going, and it's good. It's not super heavy, it's not super deep, but it's fun, and it's written well.
Right.
And that was another example of like it's just a colorful book. Like there's just color everywhere, but it's used in Black Science. It's used against a lot of dark. So there will be like a dark night scene or something, and all the animals are bioluminescent. So you get a lot of color there.
Tons of color. Yeah.
This Wildcats is just color. Like there's no dull spots anywhere. It's just like even the rubble is probably like the brightest shade of gray that you can possibly get before it turns white again.
Exactly.
Like,
and
everything's
even
bright.
and all the backgrounds have purples and pinks and reds.
Yeah.
Just tons of it. You can't be in every room is made of metal, it seems like, and that's all reflective of all this hot pink and hot purples,
And this was like Grandpa Simpson says.
Which was the style at the time?
Yeah, and
That period was very colorful. We had
Very.
a lot of day glow hot stuff everywhere. So I think it was just this is what the future will look like. Is everyone will be wearing primary colors?
and you can tell that these books, although they had stories, I really think that it was mostly, it was five or six artists that started Image Comics together. And you can really tell that they took the opportunity to showcase the art because every book has at least 5 splash pages. You know what I mean? There's so many splash pages. And I remember it's not covered in this first 4 issues, but Wildcats number 5 had 2, I believe 2 huge fold out pages that were 4 panels long and then double sided. And there was this huge showcase.
It was a showcase for the art, and it was also genius marketing. Because then
Absolutely.
you had to buy 2 because you had to cut one of them out.
Which I did.
Absolutely. You undid the staples and you cut it out very carefully. But you had a poster.
That's right.
But you couldn't cut up your comic, so you had to get another one.
That's
one
right.
in the bag, on the board, in the box.
That's right.
So I mean, way to at least guarantee selling 2 copies of your comic.
And you're right, and that's exactly what I did. When I was looking through my comics to try and find the Wildcats that I still owned, which unfortunately I don't have the first 4 issues in single issues. I had to get a digital version to read it, but I have 2 copies of Wildcats number 5, and one of them is cut to hell. The other one is nice and safe. So I absolutely did that.
Called it.
Yep.
Nice.
So we find out, that this demonite guy, Hellspawn, he needs to get his buddies here, and he's got to use this piece of alien tech called the Orb that, for whatever reasons, has ultimate galactic level powers. Void is tied to it, so it's like one of the only things that can destroy her. And the Wildcats have or Jacob Marlowe or Lord Imp, whatever you want to call him. He knows some people, and he's trying to get information to find out where Hellspawn is and where the big baddies located so that they can go and fight them. And he talks to another short guy, a little person named the Gnome, and he also has a Coda assassin. They look kind of similar, so I'm thinking that later in Wildcats you might find out that Lord Imp and the Gnome are either the same person or the same, like he's also a cherubim, I'm thinking.
Right. Whatever soap opera twist was geared up for.
Exactly. And he, the Gnome, he was just selling information, but it turns out that he actually was after the orb himself, and he shows up at the end too when Wildcats are fighting Hellspawn and all of his million friggin' named henchmen, and then Youngblood shows up to give him a hand, even though Youngblood is fighting the Wildcats because Dan Quayle, alien inhabited Dan Quayle, is telling Youngblood what to do, so they're fighting the Wildcats, and the gnome shows. It's just like, my God.
Wow. That actually sounds amazing. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no story there.
It's amazing to read it again and to look at this art again and remember why Jim Lee is as popular as he is. And to see where it all started is really fun.
Yeah.
But then,
because it sounds like an episode of The West Wing, but on mushrooms.
mushrooms for sure. Lots and lots of mushrooms. Yeah. And it ends the way, you would imagine it too. I've already said this a couple times. You can imagine how this goes, and that's how it goes. For some reason, Voodoo, the girl they rescued who can see aliens inside of humans, falls for, or seems to fall for, Spartan, the Wildcats team leader, who is a robot, and she's super worried about him and is super relieved to find out that his body is he's resting in a new body. His brain is downloading into the new one. Don't worry about it. And she's like, I'm so happy. And then Dan Quayle gets, his alien is removed, and the alien can't hold itself up. It's not used to being outside of a human body, and so it kind of just dies. But earlier in the book, another alien who was inhabiting another human kind of just sheds out of the human on his own and starts to fight, and then Warblade destroys him in a fight like lickety split. And it's like, okay, how come one could leave the human body and fight, but the other one just slumped to the floor because he's not used to gravity? I don't get it.
I don't know. Spending a lot of time with Dan Quayle, I think, just has that effect on you.
Yeah, probably.
You just
makes you not want to live anymore.
You just lay down and die.
But I'm thumbing through, or not thumbing through. I'm flicking through these panels here, and man, the art is just so cool.
It is. So that said, and this is what I was trying to distill down while you were discussing it, is with the story shortcomings aside, would you recommend reading this? I mean, it's a short arc, but would you recommend people check it out?
Absolutely. And again, it's not because, I'm not saying that it's shallow because I don't like it. And I'm not going into a lot of detail for the story because it's not good. I think it's just too shallow to really go line by line. Like if you read it for yourself, you're going to get an eyeful of awesome 90s Jim Lee art. And that's awesome.
And sometimes that's enough. Like if that's what you're looking
Right.
for, if you're looking for something that it's just kind of a light sci-fi kind of 90s nostalgia trip.
Yeah.
This is a good way to get it. I mean, I had fun going through it. I didn't read the whole thing. I was going through, looking for art examples and just kind of some stuff to talk about. But yeah, just going through it was a pleasure. It was pretty short, but what you see is pretty remarkable.
It's very inspiring because as I was going through these first 4 issues, I saw a lot of images that I haven't looked at since then. That reminded me what made me want to be an artist in the first place myself.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So a lot of the pages with Zealot and her fighting her other Coda assassin sisters and stuff, it's just a huge nostalgia slap in the face of, oh shit, this is the kind of stuff that made me want to draw myself.
Right.
That's how good his art was back then. It was so different and so awesome. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I know that I skimmed it really lightly, but that's really it. It's a team that is fighting against aliens to stop an alien invasion. That's it, and they win. Hey,
and sometimes you want the good guys to win,
of course,
because a lot of modern stories, they're trying to subvert expectation, or they're trying to be edgy or something, and it could just be a real slog to get through because you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen to these people next? Because there's always they're setting the bar always higher, and then
right.
with these it's like, All right, here's your bad guys. Here's your good guys. Good guys gonna win. All right, ready? Let's go.
Yeah, ready? Go. Break.
Yeah, but I think it's cool that like I hadn't thought about it like that. Like if you were inspired as a young person by this kind of art, going back to it could really be an interesting journey. Like it can really be inspiring. It could kind of refill that battery a little bit.
It made me remember how it felt to like draw that stuff when I was a kid. Like I would copy it and try and draw the same characters,
right?
You know, and like because they were just so cool, so much movement and action.
Right,
I never saw.
Every page had some really dynamic pose. It was a really great action scene. You know, it was like every issue had 5 great action movies in it.
Right.
And especially if you're an artist, I imagine seeing that is like, oh shit,
yeah, I could do
this.
It's very
like,
cool.
This is a thing.
Yeah, it's a really cool time capsule of the 90s art that exploded and made comics popular again.
Yeah. And if you're unfamiliar with Jim Lee's art, I mean, really do yourself a favor and check it out. Anything you find old, new is like the highest quality. It's like asking like Michelangelo like whip you up a quick painting. Like it's gonna be the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Amazing. Yep. That's right. We end up with 4 issues of the first Wildcats arc that introduced a bazillion characters, a possessed Dan Quayle, and a fiery-headed supervillain losing the game and losing the tech and getting killed. And the good guys sail off into the sunset drinking wine, literally. So
nice.
Done.
That's it.
Jim Lee art good, story bad.
All right. At least like it was still an enjoyable journey. It wasn't like you had to really painfully get through it. It's like watching an old action movie. You know, it's not Citizen Kane, but it's fun.
It's easy and it's fun. Yeah.
Right.
I think that it's easy and it's fun. I wanted a palate cleanser after The Crow, and looking at this art from The Crow, which has its own merits as art.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's black and white and it's dark and it's depressing as hell. This is light, fun, airy, colorful, and easy to get through. So there you go. Check it out. I recommend it, even though it's not that great when it comes to story.
Excellent. But good. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Like I'm
yes,
because I enjoyed it too. I was curious what your take was going to be on it, coming from your art background, and like what it was going to say to you, and so that was cool. Like I hadn't thought about that. And for young artists who may be looking for inspiration and things like that, man, you could do worse than Jim Lee.
Absolutely. Like Rob Liefeld.
He's gonna come beat us up one day. Like
I know.
You could
feel
take
like
him.
He's gonna
I
get.
Can't.
He's gonna get angry. I love the guy for his contributions to the comic world, but at the same time, man, the art is mind-blowingly bad, dude. Anyway,
but we have nothing but love.
Bagging on Rob Lee.
Right, we have nothing but love here for our comic community. So thank you, Rob, for your contributions to our beautiful community.
Yeah, and who am I to judge? I am an occasional artist who's never drawn a comic book in his life. So
yeah, he had to put out a lot of stuff. He had to put out a lot of content. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So take my opinion with a grain of salt.
All right.
But yeah, I was happy to read this again, but I'll be happy to move on to something a little bit more engaging. The art though is timeless. His Jim Lee's art is always going to be awesome.
It is.
Even when he was younger and it wasn't as accurate as it is these days. It's awesome.
It is still something to behold. That is absolutely correct. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Covering that.
No problem.
I appreciate that. So we're going to move on to our hold list items. And so since we're keeping it colorful here today in the multiverse, I wanted to take a hot second to talk about Sean Wasabi. And Sean is a musician, is a DJ, producer, and is so quiet it makes rainbows just shoot out of my eyeballs. He's just so adorable. I can't even stand it. Overall, Sean makes music and is especially prolific behind a drum machine. And the more buttons, the better. So I've sent you a few videos, but are you familiar at all with like finger drumming? Had you seen it before I'd sent it to you?
Yeah, you showed me a couple of YouTube videos. Was this the same guy that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think I've sent you a few, but it's that style. So there's a few different like crazy bananas ass MIDI controllers out there, and they're made up of small drum pads that are designed for making pretty complicated beats that can use dozens of layered sounds at once. So
yeah, it was bananas watching them play it.
Oh yeah, it gets crazy. It gets pretty out there. And if you know a drum machine, you may be thinking of, like these big pads you either hit with a drumstick or you hit with your hands or something. This is the same tech, but scaled way down to where you're using your fingers to do the drumming. And there's a company called WildC.A.T.S out of San Francisco that makes a line of MIDI controllers called MIDI Fighter. And the gimmick here is that the drum pads have been replaced by super high quality, super responsive arcade buttons like you would find on an old like Street Fighter 2 machine. The MIDI Fighter 3D offers 26 programmable buttons, tilt response, and gesture control.
Good Lord.
So it's a little box of buttons that is surprisingly deep, and you can do some really funky things. Like if you hold it in your hand and tilt it upright, it can make a different type of noise or add a different kind of filter or all sorts of things. So it becomes a kind of a physical instrument, even though it's just a pad of buttons. And it makes firing off all these complicated sequences a little easier because these buttons are designed to provide like response times measured in milliseconds. So if you think about like how ravenous the fighting game community is, it's using that same tech for a musical instrument.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty low latency stuff. But apparently that made things too easy for our friend Sean, and he worked with DJ Tech Tools to create the MIDI Fighter 64. Because why have 26 buttons when you can have 64 of them?
Jesus. What my first thought was when I watched those videos is that the time that it would take to set up each sample of those buttons would take longer than making the damn music.
Yeah, I imagine it's a lot of iterations because you have to put it into your musical program, which is called a DAW, and you literally like you tell it button by button what sound it makes.
Yeah.
And also each one of them is backed by a super bright LED light. So you can also program the colors and the brightness and how things react. So you can kind of make your own like personal Laser Floyd concert going on.
That's awesome.
And so those are some of the ones I sent you that were like just crazy light shows going on with these songs. And during a typical performance, the lights are used as heavily as the samples. And a good maestro will leave you kind of stunned. Like those deep sea fish that have like the little dangler thing. Like it's like you see an anglerfish for the first time.
Just kind of mesmerized.
It's like, what is this?
Like Dory looking at the anglerfish bulb.
It is.
That's
how I felt. That's how I felt like the first time I saw this was just like there was different parts of my brain activating, and I was just
pretty.
I don't understand this, but I can't look away. And the visuals are a big part of the appeal, but the music is what will stay with you. So here's a little taste of Wasabi, but be careful. It's very, very spicy. And this is if White Claw had an official soundtrack.
I've never had a White Claw before.
Oh, it's a hoot. It's like this. It's light, it's colorful, but it'll fuck you up. So if you're like me and you like this, which I very much do, you can check out our YouTube channel, and I'll add some links in the description for some really fun Sean Wasabi videos to check out that will keep you dancing just gosh darn day.
And while you're there, leave us a like and a comment.
Yeah.
It's one thing that we have yet to say on our show, I think, is that we do have the YouTube channel.
Yes.
And it's not so much our faces, but Gabe came up with awesome art style of little cherub versions of us.
Well, thank you. I was going to say, if you're looking for adorable cartoon versions of us,
yes,
you can check out our YouTube channel. And there's, a little more chance of community engagement over there.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, tell us how bad we are, and we'll try and get better.
Be like the other people and tell us that you're interested in what we're talking about. Don't be mean. My ego can't take it.
Telling the internet not to be mean.
Oh God, no! I just opened the floodgates. No, please.
We'll see how it goes from now on.
See, I have to turn off the comments. All right, so
never mind.
Yeah, this is a terrible idea. So enjoy that. When you check out our YouTube channel, check out the other videos on there because they're really fun. I mean, they're short kind of music videos, but they are just super, super fun. And expand your palate and add some wasabi.
Yes.
There to the mix. It'll be good for you.
It's delicious.
It is. It's so spicy, but I love it. It's just the cutest thing. And he's very charming too. So you'll like him. Before we move on from the whole list, I actually just wanted to check in with you, Jeremy. So it's been a couple days since the new Path of Exile League has started. I know you've been hacking away at it.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you wanted to give us a quick update on how the Layaway League is going.
And the Layaway League is a great way to put it too. Very, very quickly, because I've talked about PoE on our podcast way too much. But it's essentially, yes, the new league mechanic is you get to choose your rewards after accomplishing the fight, basically. And instead of it being complete RNG, you can say, okay, well, I have enough money for this item. It would really be a great item to get. If I have enough right now, I can take that item and put it in my inventory and use it as I see fit. Or if you haven't quite earned enough ritual points to afford it, you can reserve it for later. You could essentially put it on layaway, and later, after performing other rituals in other zones, you might now have enough to get that item. So the Layaway League is a fantastic way of saying it. I think it's really funny.
It's a good system. It works.
It is. It
keeps you coming back.
It's better. Yeah, it's better because it's deterministic. Like it's still RNG for the items that show up in the list of things you can get. But at least you can see what you're going to get. And it's a nice break from the usual with Path of Exile, where it's just totally RNG. Whatever spits out of the guy you kill is whatever it is.
Yeah.
And this is just nice. You can see it. It's really cool.
Good.
I haven't put a ton of time into it. I've been busy doing some other stuff.
Yeah, I only saw you pop on Discord a couple times, usually kind of in the evening, and I'd see you play for maybe an hour or two, and then you'd pop off again. So, yeah, I know you haven't been, like, super deep into it yet.
No, I just had just stuff going on. So, but I mean the leagues go on for 3 months. So I have plenty of time to play it. I actually started over my first the league starter character that I went with this time. I didn't really like. I got to level like 36 and was like, this isn't really feeling all that great. So I re-rolled a character, so that kind of put me back too. So
I like that.
Just chugging along.
I am always reset. I'm so non-committal.
And Path of Exile is great for that, although you might get really sick of doing the story over and over again.
That could be, yeah, because like I have 3 characters on Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
I get to a point, I'm like, let's try this other one.
Yeah. It lends itself to that. There's so many different ways to play the game that you can start over all the time and do a different build and have a different play style.
Nice.
Yeah.
But you like it? You've been digging it?
It's great. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Yep.
Good. All right. Well, then we will move on to our IRL Hero of the Week, where we take a moment to spotlight heroes in our own universe. And this week, we have given Jim Lee a little bit of crap this week, and I feel a little bad for that. He's a good guy. we love Jim Lee. And as head of DC, I wanted to give him a little shout out here.
Absolutely.
Because DC is publishing something called Flash Facts. And the holidays are over, school is back in session, and kids around the world now have an opportunity to learn from some of their favorite teachers, i.e. Superman, Batman, the Flash, and many other heroes from the DC universe.
Hell yeah.
Now, Flash Facts is an all-new graphic novel targeted towards middle schoolers that mixes valuable lessons in science, technology, engineering, and math, which we know as STEM. And our thrilling adventures feature some of DC's biggest heroes. This is curated by Big Bang Theory star and scientist Mayim Bialik. And the book is a fun, lively collection of superhero stories from an all-star roster of writers and artists that presents crucial STEM principles in a way that's exciting and approachable. So, for example, The Flash introduces us to forensic science. And if you know your Flash, you know that the Flash's day job is a forensic scientist.
Works with the Kappas, yep.
He's kind of a good guy in his day job and his night job. Supergirl explores the mysteries of space. She seems like a good candidate for that. She can go up there pretty easily.
Absolutely.
And the Teen Titans have some fun with VR and more. The idea is to illustrate how the STEM principles that kids learn about in school are applied in everyday life and also by superheroes. So it's kind of like, to give it a more fun, instead of like, here's your vegetables, like here's your vegetables with whipped cream on top.
Right. And that's great. I mean, you bash kids over the head with stupid little facts and they're going to be bored as hell, but you add in some color and some awesome characters that are seriously at the forefront of popular culture these days.
True.
It's going to be a lot more interesting for them.
Yeah.
I hope. That's great.
Yeah, because for example, if you're looking for a sample story, there's one called If You Can't Take the Heat. It is a story about Batman and Plastic Man, and the art is very kind of age appropriate as well. This isn't like really gritty. Jim Lee isn't doing the art of this one. It's very modern cartoon style. Think of kind of a Teen Titans kind of style. So it's Batman and Plastic Man are returning from a night out crime fighting, and Batman has to replace a broken bat ear from his cowl that broke off during their adventure. And to do this, Batman teaches Plastic Man about 3D printing, and they explain what filament is and how the layering process works, and it's actually really interesting. And it's Batman showing like, all right, well, this is how I fix my stuff. I use this real technology. Here's how it works.
Yeah.
And the characters are presented in a very, like I said, age appropriate style, and the stories are fun and positive and keep things light. So there's nothing you have to worry about in this one. It's just very surface level. Hey, here's some cool stories about science and math, and we need more of that.
And that's really cool. I think it's neat that, especially with like 3D printing, it's such a huge upcoming technology. There's so many awesome uses for it that it's great that it's being highlighted by popular characters. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that one of my cousins, he works for a school system nearby, or school district nearby, and he creates learning tools for vision impaired students using 3D printing.
Oh, very cool.
And everything's like kind of custom design. There's a community of other instructors and stuff like that for visual impaired kids, and they'll kind of share designs and tools and stuff. But yeah, 3D printing is a big, like the school he works for has a 3D printing department.
That's so cool.
Where they create things. So yeah, it's a relevant thing to learn about. So if this sounds interesting to you, and maybe you have some middle schoolers in your home, or if you're like me, maybe you're still operating at a 7th grade level, I'm not here to judge. Check it out. It was really interesting. I thought it was very cute. So you can enjoy a first look at Flash Facts featuring that same storyline I was talking about, If You Can't Take the Heat, in its entirety at dccomics.com.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, that will do it for this week. Next week, join us as we take a trip to the future. Not our future, at least we hope not, but a future. One of many for our old friend Logan.
Yes.
Yeah, this time we're taking on the mother of all what-if storylines, Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
So we got Moloids, Venomosauruses, and the Hulk. Spends a little too much time with She-Hulk. In that case, gets tossed out for giving us the heebie-jeebies.
No kidding. You told him, so I'm really looking forward to this Old Man Logan stuff. You've actually recommended I read it over the last couple of years, and I haven't yet. So it'll be nice to hear about it. And you told me about the Venom T-Rex that roams the countryside. Like, what the hell?
Just one of many great stories in this arc. This is like
that's awesome.
A buffet if you're an old school Marvel fan. Like every page is another little morsel for you. Like, oh, I remember that guy. Oh, I remember that. Oh, she was great. Like it's great. It's super fun. You can rip through it pretty quick.
That's awesome.
It's a long, I think it's like 6 or 8 issues, but the story is so quickly paced. We'll rip through it too, but it's very, very good. I can, spoiler alert, I highly recommend it.
Already recommended.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one next week.
Awesome.
All right, so email us at mindingthemultiverse@gmail.com. Find us at This Multiverse on Twitter, or leave us a comment on YouTube to recommend story arcs, tell us what we're wrong about, or if you're like me and think Rob Liefeld and Bobby Flay are the same person, like Chris Gaines is really just Garth Brooks with a stupid soul patch, let us know, because I know I can't be alone on this.
It's a conspiracy.
I knew it.
The proof is at Area 51.
That's what they've been keeping there this whole time.
Well, we relied on the wrong people to storm Area 51. It didn't go well.
I knew it. Damn it.
Yep.
One day we'll solve that mystery. All right, for Minding the Multiverse, I am Gabriel.
And I'm Jeremy.
And remember, all of this is now canon.